What's an NSFW Google search that unexpectedly turned NSFW? My neighbor recommended a video game emulator back in the relatively early days of the internet. He told me to search for Bleem. This ended up redirecting me to a website called Computers. Guess you know what that was about. It was pretty awkward as we were on dial-up and my parents were in the same room. Needless to say, after that I had to try the website a few more times when my parents were out because I really wanted to emulate the games or whatever. Puberty makes you do crazy things. In middle school I discovered on like the 10th plus page of Google image results for bridges there was a picture of a naked woman taking a shower that made it through the school's safe search. I found it during a class, told all my friends nearby, and was basically the queen of 6th grade for a day. Teacher was less than amused. Kai from Dragon Ball. Loved Dragon Ball as a kid, still do. Wanted pictures of the characters to draw. Had pictures of everyone else. Search Kai and it pulled up a Kai strip club or something of the sort. Was maybe 12 when it happened. First pic I saw was two women with a tube going from one of the tushies to the others. Don't know what was going on there and still don't want to. You and also use quotation marks around a group of words to make sure Google searches for those words in that order and together, or you can use and, in caps, to make sure the results include both words. For example, baseball and Orioles will only return results about baseball and Orioles, so very few results will be about birds or baseball teams that aren't the Orioles. I don't know if this would work or help, but when Googling you can include the minus symbol before a word and Google will remove any sites that use that word, so Googling LGBTQ teens porn sex naked topless, etc. would help reduce the chance of getting results you aren't interested in. You just keep adding more tags you don't want to refine the results. So if you did that search and still got lots of porn stuff, just find keywords in those links that wouldn't be in the sites you actually want and add those to the search. Funnily enough, this is how my brother was outed as gay. When I was in 5th or 6th grade, we did a project on researching companies. I asked to use the home computer to do research, and when I typed in G a lot of other searches came up. Gay college parties stands out in my mind for some reason. I made an audible gasp or whoa, and my dad walked over and saw the searches. Although I was able to do research, my parents had a talk with my brother, but he insisted it wasn't him. Took another 5 years for him to officially come out. But we're a happy family now and I have a great brother-in-law. I'm going to be vague on purpose, because I don't want someone else to accidentally bump into this filth like I did. I was looking into new equipment for a hobby of mine, so I was searching for models. It quickly led me to a child exploitation site that was hosted on the clear web. I always thought that you needed to go to the deep web to find that stuff. But there it was, on the clear web accepting credit cards. I found a darling crochet pattern for a banana hammock. In this case, literally a hammock that holds bananas. It hooks under the cupboards so the bananas aren't on the counter surface. My colleagues and I were joking about the banana hammock. And one of our colleagues, she was pretty young, not too long out of high school, and kind of innocent, Googled crochet banana hammock to find the pattern. It didn't turn out well. She was upset we didn't warn her not to Google that. But I still chuckle over it now and then. This was more an unexpectedly in SFW Google Translate. I'm learning Italian, and a lesson on Duolingo introduced the word for keys, a chiave. I was trying to figure out what the singular was to make a flashcard. The singular should be la chiave. But I was new, so I first guessed La Chiava, and typed it into my Italian dictionary app to confirm. It turns out, La Chiava translates to he fucks her. I have not forgotten the word for key since. Toys for a harness. I was a special education teacher and one of my kids wore a harness on the bus. He was having a hard time on the ride to and from school, throwing things, spitting on people, and generally making the bus driver's life a living hell. I asked my principal if we could buy him some toys that would attach to his harness, and she told me to find them and forward the link to her. Typed in toys for harness. It was not for a child. Plus, I am a lesbian, I screamed, shut down the computer, laughed my entire way to the principal's office to explain myself in case the district called her. About 15 years ago I was trying to find an image for an average rainfall chart. I typed an average and accidentally hit enter before I put in the rest of the phrase, and the top result was a photo captioned "average-looking girl with big breasts." The photo was exactly as described. This was in middle school. So as a kid we went to the computer lab so they could teach all of us how to use the internet and search engines. This was early 2000s and Google among others were still pretty new things. Well, they start by giving us this long talk about explaining how these things work and that we can search anything on this very specific list they gave us. The teacher was talking about how all the girls should search American Girl. Well, I thought that was unfair that they can search for American Girl but us boys couldn't search American Boy, so being curious I typed it in to see if it existed. Well, it was porn. I did this back in 7th grade. We were supposed to design our own soda can. I finished early and was helping my friend who wanted to make a blueberry squirt soda can. We looked up squirt in Google Images and screamed at the results, promptly closing the tab. Our teacher heard us and asked if everything was fine. We just said yeah and moved on. I had a coworker who made a comment about how she looks like a villain from a kid's cartoon that I was not familiar with, so she told me to Google the character. I did, and we were looking at my phone together. I was like, yeah, you do look like her, and as I scrolled down there was some NSFW fan art of that character. I quickly closed it out and turned off my phone, but we both saw it. It was obviously an innocent mistake. But being at work in a corporate office setting, I probably could have gotten in some trouble with HR if it was reported. Good to know I'm not the only one with the Pokemon story here. When I was younger, this would have been between the release of Emerald and the next generation, Diamond and Pearl, I simply Googled dash from Pokemon. It was very shocking for my 8-year-old self to stumble upon the Shrunken Women, doll-size porn category. Is it even a category? Unrelated to Pokemon. But also around the same time, I googled fox because I was doing a school project on an animal and I chose fox. Apparently Google thought I meant foxy women or something because it just showed me a bunch of sexy ladies, only some of which were Megan Fox. There is actually a whole set of rules that search engines are governed by that you can actually add into your search to filter explicit results. The rules are numbered to the category, and you just type rule category number and results will be filtered for explicit results. The category number for video games is 34, so just add rule 34. Just a little tip for the future. My favorite music Ball State joke is that the music school has a period trombone ensemble, meaning they play music from a specific time period with period-accurate instruments. The early predecessor to the trombone was the sackbut. This particular ensemble consisted of 6 sackbut players. Sometimes small ensembles will come up with creative names to perform under, but not this group. They were known simply as the Ball Sackbut Sextet. Yes, same here. We use our own Hungarianized spelling and pronunciation, so amateur is amateur and dilettante is dilettante. It's hard to explain the pronunciation, but with amateur, the T is a normal hard T, not whatever you say in English, and dilettante ends with a SH sound, like the SZ you have in Polish. Maybe just Google them and have a listen. I'm not great at explaining D. Same thing happened to me of sorts. I was compiling photos for a presentation at my middle school when I Google image searched girl-child model. I was so outraged with the results, I showed them to my dad. How is this okay? These are obviously for porn. Those girls need help. We need to report this to the police." I think he just politely dismissed himself rather than explaining what it was. It wasn't until I was in my 20s when I recalled the memory and put the pieces together. Wouldn't be surprised if we were put on a watch list. OMG, you just helped me remember something. Once in high school I was in a class where we were making a PowerPoint about ourselves. Well, Mr. Good bars are my favorite chocolate bars, so I googled Mr. Good bar. Well, apparently that's some dude's porn name, and his images just like the ones you described came up on my computer at school. I was terrified I was going to get accused of looking at porn on my computer, so I just shut out every single window I had open, sat in silence for a second while I looked around to see if anyone had caught that. Luckily no one did. I decided to keep Mr. Good bars out of my project altogether. I remember something very similar happening in my social studies class in high school. We were all told to go to whitehouse.gov, and when we went there we all received the oldest page as being blocked due to pornographic content, so we thought, hey, maybe we misheard the teacher and tried com instead. Boy, were we surprised with what came up. The teacher was in the other room talking with the librarian. Turns out someone really screwed up when setting up the content blocker. It was blocking every site that was safe for us and letting in everything else. When I was 9 or 10 I heard about a website on the news. I think it was something similar to eBay. And I wanted to see what it was. So I went to my room and typed in the URL. Or at least what I thought the URL was. I was instantly bombarded with porn all over the page. I had never seen anyone of the opposite sex naked, and I didn't even know what sex was. I remember seeing 2 girls in the shower in a super inappropriate pose, and I was horrified. To top off this already traumatizing experience, our computer was pretty old and outdated, so all the pop-ups and plugins made the page freeze and I couldn't hit the X. I immediately shut the computer off and cried. Same. Vividly remember having to jump through hoops to import images that didn't suck. I remember playing it while playing Guy Online. Made so many friends back then at the Palace. Once I've stuck around too. I think Palace Chat and Phalanx are the ones that still exist. Been a little while since I last checked though. Oh, just remembered this. My favorite thing to do was mess with cyborgs. They let you do fancy things like zap people or spoof chat bubbles using their scripting language. Damn, the memories are flooding back. I remember when I was in middle school, we went to the White House's website as a class activity, and the teacher specifically instructed us it's whitehouse.gov, not whitehouse.com. Don't mix that up. Needless to say, a bunch of us looked it up, and found a porn site, specifically banking on people getting those two mixed up. Taught a reinforced concrete lab at uni, and the students how to mix and pour concrete. Well, we had a concrete vibrator, and I had to give my students a few minutes to get the giggles out. Then I would explain to them how the tool worked and that his name is Dick. I'm a female, and all my male students were not sure how to behave after that statement. Extra fun fact: the folding trucks that protect road workers. Official name is Scorpion, but on site we call them Donkey Dicks. This reminds me of a time at work. My boss had lived his whole life in a very small town and lacked an understanding of the world outside his. Great guy, smart guy, just not worldly by any stretch. 3 of us were arguing about the best way to tune concrete vibrators on a specific casting form when he says the answer will be on the manufacturer's website. Me and the other engineer went back to arguing our points to each other when we hear a gurgled gasp. We look over and see the boss's type vibrator into a search engine and is horrified by what is now populated on his screen. We were kicked out of the office because we couldn't stop laughing. A few months later, a search filter was put on the company network. Women do too. It's anywhere there's a thin strip of skin that serves only to hold things in place. A typical person has 3 in their mouth. tongue and both lips, and 2 in their crotch, 1 between their penis, clitoris and foreskin, hood, and another between their near the front of the scrotum, at the top of their inner lips. There are also internal ones that can't be seen in your brain and digestive system. It can cause issues with breastfeeding as a baby and speech issues later. I was, and got mine revised in my 30s in solidarity with my 6-year-old son who needed it for speech therapy. My youngest was revised weeks after birth, when my wife, who had become a lactation consultant between number 1 and number 2, pinpointed it, and got a third-party consult. TLDR, tongue tie affects speech and drinking boob milk. Get your babies checked, way easier to resolve as an infant than as an adult. Also, my wife appreciates the extra tongue articulation. I do have some vocalization problems, but I really don't think it's from being tongue-tied. No issues with eating food. I think all the issues are just because the tongue has a little less freedom. My tongue always rested at the bottom of my mouth, which led to my upper teeth growing in kinda funky. The main issue for me was just not being able to clean the back of my teeth throughout the day and had to wait until brushing my teeth at home. Also, the frenulum would get caught in between my lower front teeth if I tried to stick my tongue out and would sometimes get cut. Because of this comment, I went down a rabbit hole to discover I too am very tongue-tied. WTH, I'm 36 years old just learning about all of this, and it explains so goddamn much. Side note, I'm so jealous of people that literally have no restrictions with the movement of their tongue. I did that mid-coitus, didn't notice, was an absolute bloodbath, and I was spraying Tarantino-style blood from my penis once I did. Bed looked like a murder scene. I stood over the thing cock in hand and watched it spray with every pulse of my heart, thinking I can't believe him going to fucking die via snap banjo. But for any dudes out there with a tight erection, could be a tight frenulum, feels way better after it snapped. Get it checked by a doctor and cut if necessary. Back in 1998, when word of a live-action X-Men movie was coming out, I got super excited because I was a huge X-Men comics and cartoon fan. I was a sheltered 13-14-year-old and new to the internet. Imagine my horror watching the slow dial-up of Xmen.com and not seeing my familiar mutant heroes. If anyone is curious, Xmenmovie.com was the actual website I was looking for. Back in the days of dial-up, my friend showed me a website called lavacalculator.com. You just type 2 names in there and hit enter, and it tells you their compatibility in % if they were in a relationship. Being in elementary school, this website circled around quick. I asked my buddy how he found the website, and he said he was just typing random shit in the address bar and hitting enter. Me being an narcissistic fuck, I wanted to find the next cool website for all my classmates. I typed in Luv.com and stumbled on a porn site. First time ever seeing titties and vagine. Distinctly remember seeing several guys with massive, like over a foot, schlongs fucking this girl up. In hindsight, kinda shocked my first exposure to porn was so aggressive in how it barely fazed me. I remember seeing these guys peeing white stuff on the girl's face at the end and thinking WTF is going on though, and being very confused. Now, that's all I watch. That's awesome. We, age 11 in 1998, were in health class and doing a project on puberty. My partner and I decided to present wet dreams and thought wetdreams.com would be the place to look. It was porn. Panic ensured, and I was trying to close the window when my partner called the teacher over to explain what happened so we wouldn't get in trouble. Our teacher was super chill about it, but it was embarrassing. I was around the same age back then, and it's funny looking back and remembering that sometimes in the 90s internet world you would just think, oh, I'll just type in www, and whatever just came into your head at that moment slapped the old com on the end, and you'd fully expect the website to be whatever that thing was, no matter how specific or not. It never was, lol.